Hi, welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and today we're looking at The Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett. This is a spoiler-free, objective look at the series to help you decide if you want to read it. This series is intensely grimdark. It's got just about every atrocity you can imagine, and some you haven't imagined yet but will wish you didn't. It's got badass demon monsters and cool fantasy concepts, and there's so much character work in this story that it's often more like a drama piece or soap opera with a strong literary focus. That said, this series does have some negative points, and a rather vocal group of online critics who don't like it. A common critique of this series is that it keeps introducing new protagonists and new plot lines that stretch the story into 5 books. We'll look at that too and help you get a clear picture of what to expect. A quick note, there are 5 books in the Demon Cycle, but there is a sequel trilogy, the Nightfall trilogy, and there's 2 books written out of those 3 so far. I haven't read Nightfall yet, I'm waiting for the 3rd one, so today's video really is just focusing on Demon Cycle, the 5 books. Also, heads up, there's some heavy content discussed in this video, a bit of a trigger warning for child abuse and sexual assault, and a bunch of other stuff, but those are the primary 2. Let's go! Humanity has fallen into a dark age. The old world of science and technology collapsed when demons started rising out of the ground at nighttime. The endless horde consumed humanity, and only a remnant now remain. But where science failed, magic succeeded. Through trial and error, people rediscovered ancient wards of magic that hold back the demons. Now those who are left must hide indoors at nighttime, taking shelter behind their wards, lest the demon consume them. Arlen Bales wants to be a messenger, someone who runs between settlements of humans. To be caught between settlements at nighttime means certain death, so messengers are the bravest of humanity. Many of them are trained to make wards as they go, setting up temporary shelters so they can travel. Yet Arlen is not satisfied. Becoming a messenger is only his first step. He dreams of unlocking new wards and new magic powerful enough to destroy the demon hordes for good. Leisha Paper begins studying a form of witchcraft, using herbology and demonology to become a gifted healer, despite the townsfolk mistrusting her unusual ways. And Roger Inn is a child musician who finds his music has a strange effect on the demons. These 3 characters each begin searching for new ways to hold back the demon hordes, and maybe even erase them once and for all. Yet soon they find that demons are far from the most dangerous thing in this world. This is a post-apocalyptic world. Technically. The old world of science failed, so now all societies have swung away from science and towards faith. Everyone is religious, and superstitious to pretty extreme levels. To say or do anything scientific is taboo. In fact, many people say it was science itself that caused the demons' hordes to arise, and that God sent the demons as a punishment for humanity trusting in science instead of him, and that doing anything scientific now will bring about more punishment. All of this society is built around needing to be indoors at nighttime. Daylight is good, nighttime is the worst. This shapes the world in clever ways, such as every human settlement being very tightly packed together. If you hate your neighbor, there is no getting away from them. Every town here is a small town, with all that includes.
This is a small village, small-minded, but small also means safe.
But it's not all small towns. There are still 2 countries left in this world. So in the north we have Thesa, and in the south, Krasia. Thesa is very much based on European culture, and Krasia is based on Middle Eastern. Thesa is much more your stereotypical fantasy culture, a feudal system of lords and ladies, knights and peasants. There's swords and sorcery and the all-important church that worships a monotheistic god. Krasia, on the other hand, is a much more original, fictional creation. It's very militarized culture, an elaborate caste system of ranks and roles, and its level of social tolerance is very much either you're religious or you are put to death. As for the demons, well, they are very elemental. There's dozens of types of these monsters, and they all have different characteristics depending on their element. So there's wood demons, stone demons, lake demons, lightning demons, snow demons.
Shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad.
While that might sound a little generic at first, trust me, each one is a fresh terror. The lake demons are basically giant tentacle monsters that squirm and ooze, and cave demons are like creepy spiders that scuttle along the walls. They're all a little freaky. The real creepy thing is that we know nothing about these demons. They're creatures of magic, and regular weapons don't work on them. They rise out of the ground, forming out of mist and taking corporeal shape, and that's it. That's all we know. Are they dumb beasts? Do they have a leader? What about that myth of the core, the legendary center of the world where the demons supposedly come from? We don't know anything, and that's a very compelling reason to start reading this series. That is, if you can get past all the grimdark. This series is about as violent and graphic as you're likely to see. In fantasy, at least. This is not like Game of Thrones, where everyone is ruthlessly striving for dominance. This is a world where society has collapsed. Law and order has largely failed. The few leaders left are barely hanging on to any form of civilization. This is humanity at its least human and most animalistic. Just remember, Grimdark as a fantasy subgenre is not about reveling in extreme violence and blood. It's actually all about realism. It's about showing us the messiness of humanity without that shiny gloss we've come to expect from Hollywood. The hero doesn't always win, battles aren't always neat and perfectly climactic, and the timer doesn't always stop at 1.
It always stops at 1 on the show.
Grimdark reads a lot more like real history, which is messy, unpredictable, and often brutal. There's a pretty extensive content warning for this series, I'll put that towards the end. Yet I love seeing Grimdark in a world like this, which still feels like a real fantasy. Often a grimdark story will downplay the magical or the fantastical sides of the story in order to focus on hyper-realism. But I enjoyed seeing monsters and magic and all the weird stuff on full display, while still including all the darker aspects. Speaking of monsters, let's talk about the demons. See, it is the demon cycle and they are a huge part of the story, but they're not what the story is about. After all, good monster movies are not about the monsters. I recently rewatched Jaws, just on a whim because I'd been listening to John Williams music, but I would say that that movie works because it's not about the shark. It's about a chief of police, Brody, being a fish out of water, pun intended. He has no idea how to fight a shark and knows nothing about boats, but he is going to try. It's about a greedy mayor who refuses to close the beaches, and that crazy obsessed Captain Quint who insists on being the one to kill the shark. So many monster movies focus too much on the monsters and fail to make us care about the people. That's why Godzilla King of the Monsters is a hot mess, but Godzilla -1 is a bloody masterpiece. The monster is cool and impressive, but it's only the threat. It can't be the only reason why we engage in the story. So the demon cycle does not fall into that trap. It's not just focused on the monsters, it's absolutely about people. We care about them, and the demons only exist as the trial for their journeys. That said, there are some portions of the series where it feels like the demons are just faded into the background, because it's all about people and their drama and their problems, but we'll get to that. A major selling point of this series is the rivalry between our protagonist and our antagonist. This is peak rivalry, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So Arlen is seeking knowledge of magic to destroy the demons for good. He travels to Crazia and meets Jadir, a deeply religious man and a fierce warrior. They soon become best friends despite coming from different worlds. Jadir also wants to destroy the demons for good, and this unites the two of them. They learn each other's languages. They start calling each other brother. However, through circumstances, they end up disagreeing and eventually end up on opposite sides of the Great War. You see, both countries have a prophecy about the Deliverer, a chosen one who will save the world. Now, some people believe that the Deliverer was a real person hundreds of years ago, the person who originally discovered the wards that saved humanity from extinction. Arlen believes that the Deliverer is just a myth that rose up after the original guy. He thinks it's not real and that humanity shouldn't wait on a savior, it should should save itself. Judea, on the other hand, believes that he is the descendant of the original deliverer, that his bloodline is holy, and that he is destined to take up the mantle of deliverer once again. And as war stirs between the countries of Thesa and Krasia, you know, the Daylight War, like, it's not a spoiler to say that, both countries rally behind Arlen and Judea respectively. Each is declared the deliverer for their country. Though Arlen denounces the title, Judea claims it and slaughters anyone who disagrees. This is a real highlight of the series, the symmetry and relationship between Arlen and Judea. It's very similar to Batman and the Joker, Neo and Smith, Luz Theron and Ishamael. They know each other intimately, respect each other, yet will fight to the death to stop the other too. The many levels of their relationship is truly a highlight of the series, and it's so well done. As for Judea himself, what a fascinating character. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into some of the negatives for the series. The first issue is, I think that the character work here is really good, but not everyone agrees. We'll discuss that. And the second big issue is that every book introduces new protagonists to focus on. And our main characters from book one, who we actually care about, keep getting pushed further and further away from center stage. So I'll try to give you a balanced view here. In book one, we have Arlen, Leisha, and Roger. Yes, it is pronounced Roger in the audiobook. Each of them has suffered some extreme hardships early in life and have come a long way to rise above it. So right there, we have a lot of reasons to care about these people and we wish to see them succeed. We see pretty extensive backstories for each of them too, and I feel we get a very strong sense of their personalities and unique voices. Then in book two, it switches over to Judea. He's a minor character in book one, but now it's all about him. Except, just to be clear, the story doesn't just continue onwards from his perspective now. The story actually pauses, we go back in time and see his entire life journey up to that point, including what he was up to during book one. It's a massive chunk of the book. Now, Judea's character work is extremely sophisticated, but it can be frustrating that the story stops, the main characters disappear, and we just go explore this new guy so much. Then the series does this again for every subsequent book. Yeah. Now, I remember each character's story very well, but I don't remember which character's story went in which book. This happens when you binge read a series and the lines blur. But I know we get deep backgrounds for the abused and neglected Reyna, the high priest Enervra, and the wealthy merchant Aban. And several other smaller characters too get pieces as well. There are so many character stories that it often feels like a drama piece in a fantasy world. This can be a good thing or a bad thing, and it will depend on your tastes. Some people get frustrated by all the new characters. Others find their stories really intriguing for different reasons. The real question is, are the character journeys at least good? Well, let's look at two. We have Leisha Paper, she's our leading lady. She's unusually intelligent, the only smart person in her small town with small minds.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Leisha is at first ashamed of herself for refusing to fit in and be like everyone else. Yet she finds an old witch who's living on the outskirts of town and on society itself, and the old witch teaches her that it's okay to be smart. Leisha spends her whole life trying to help people despite them kicking and screaming every step of the way. She learns to hold back her intelligence and play along with people, secretly guiding them to where they need to be. Now, some critics call Leisha a Mary Sue character because she's so smart and she picks up her witch's skills so quickly. Now, you might have that impression too, although I will say it's funny that people are quick to call women Mary Sues, and a male character who's very intelligent, they're like, oh my god, he's legit me. Leisha has a lot in common with Kvoth from The Name of the Wind, but see what you think. The second character I want to look at is Judea. Now, he's the antagonist of the series, but I'm not sure if you would call him the villain. He's trying to save humanity from the demons, and he's determined to militarize the whole population by force if necessary and turn everyone into a united fighting force. He's also intensely religious and believes God has given him divine right to do whatever is necessary. Judea is an essential do the ends justify the means type character, and he reminds me a lot of Light Yagami. In fact, let me just talk about Death Note for a hot second. Death Note is a pretty famous concept. A guy gets a book that will kill people if you write their name in it. Light Yagami decides to kill criminals to create a perfect world. Over 32 episodes, we watch his fall from grace as he crosses one moral line after another in his quest. Now, what I find interesting about Death Note is how so many people will have different reactions to Light's crimes. Some people stop supporting the main character about halfway through, some stop supporting really early, and some support him right up till the end. I enjoy seeing people's different perspectives on moral issues and looking at it through this lens. For me, I stopped supporting him in episode 7.
Why do you keep checking your watch?
Well, Jadea is a very similar antagonist. I think some readers will support him for an indeterminate length of time. Others will hate him immediately, and others might find him completely fascinating and support him right up till the end. He is a fascinating and divisive character, and in many ways, he's almost worth reading the entire series just to see his journey as an antagonist. Would you call Jadea evil? Is evil too limited a word? So even though the character work here can be frustrating as you see some characters come and go, it's still good quality character work, in my opinion at least. Okay, so plotlines are another mixed bag. You may love some, you may hate others, so spoiler-free, let me outline what you can expect from this series. The first major plotline is the Demon War, and this is awesome. Badass battles, the magic of wards versus the magic of demons, blood and guts and glory. This war is ever-present and growing and ongoing, and leads to some terrific action sequences that are chef's kiss cool. Next is the Holy War. Tensions are growing between Thesa and Krasia, and both sides think they have religious justification to destroy the other. The Daylight War is fought during the day when there are no demons around. Even with a great enemy, humans still turn on each other. The next plotline is all about relationships. Yeah. So it's less like romance and more about who is dating who, getting married, having babies, etc. This is what I meant when I say it's a character drama. It's just people living their lives and being people. It's surprisingly normal. That's interesting, but maybe a little anticlimactic compared to the other plots. Then there is, quite frankly, a whole bunch of random, super violent subplots that take up a whole lot of pages. Let's see. There's a girl who lives with her sexually abusive father and is trying to escape him. In one book, we have a group of bandits called the Eunuchs, who castrate every male they find. Then there's a bunch of orphan kids who discover demon magic and end up drug addicts and having a ton of underage sex. Yeah, it gets pretty messed up. Now, these subplots are often criticized for being too violent and relying a lot on shock value. Or they're criticized for being unnecessary, where we'd much rather get back to the cool Demon War and the Holy War, for example. But others applaud these subplots for their grimdark depiction of the darker depths of humanity. So it's a little bit divisive, and you'll have to see for yourself. Now, let's talk about the darkest topic in this series. Oh boy. Oh my god, it's everywhere in this series. There is so much rape and assault and violence in this series. Now, let's be real. This alone is good enough reason for many of you to not read this series. That's your call. I respect that. You don't have to justify that to anyone. Do what makes you feel comfortable. Now, I don't want to discuss should this topic be in books, because that's like a whole video essay waiting to happen, but just for today, I want to talk about how this is handled. Historically speaking, societies that have seen a collapse in law and order tend to see a massive increase in sexual assaults. It's considered a war crime by the Geneva Convention because of how often rape is used as a psychological warfare tactic during history. In fact, I started researching specific examples to reference here, and then realized there are literally hundreds of examples of war and genocide using mass rape, and I ended up just staring at the wall in despair for humanity for a while there.
We're not gonna make it, are we?
This has happened a lot through our history against men, women, and children. So no, I don't think the sexual violence is included in this series for cheap shock value. There is a real historical precedent for this topic. What I think is important is that it's always shown to be a horrible thing. There is no time when the rape is depicted as being not that big a deal. There are instances of men experiencing rape as well, and it's just as evil. In fact, we get several thorough depictions of the psychological damage and trauma of rape, and the difficulty in trying to recover, so we see the cost of it. There is one thing I want to address, and it's slightly spoilery, but some readers take issue with one instance of this in particular. One woman experiences rape, and several days later, when she's safe again, she decides to have sex, on a whim. It's done in a way of her reclaiming her body and her autonomy again, taking back her power for herself. Now, many people have criticized this scene for being unrealistic, even impossible, saying that an assault survivor would not do this. But I genuinely think this is very realistic. There is a significant intersection between a person's involvement in sex work and their having experienced sexual violence in the past. A 2003 study interviewed 102 survivors of sexual violence and found that 23% of them had since engaged in paid sex works after their assault. They found it to be a suitable method to regain control of their bodies and safely limit other people's access to them. Now remember, of course, correlation does not mean causation. Not every sex worker has suffered abuse, and not every abuse survivor goes into sex work. I just want to make clear that this one character's choice actually makes sense. There are many ways people deal with grief and trauma, and not everyone grieves the same way. Therefore, this character may have had an unusual response, but it is within the realm of reason. So make your own decision about whether this series and this extreme content is something you want to read. There's a common saying about this series that someone started it but gave up. I watched Mike's book review on this series on how he gave up reading The Demon Cycle, and it's a great video. I wholeheartedly recommend it. So yes, there is a big drop-off rate here. Many people get impatient, waiting for the story to finally resolve Arlen and Jadia's rivalry and reveal the big mysteries of the demon origin. It can be frustrating to watch yet another new character come onto the scene and have a long flashback sequence, especially when it feels like there are so many more pressing issues. And it's not just new plots and new characters, there's also so much time spent world building, especially on Krasian culture. In Book 4, The Skull Throne, it spends a huge proportion of time exploring even deeper into Krasian leadership, the courts and legal system, and their caste system, and considering it's a deviation from the primary conflict, it can be extra frustrating. But that's why I'm giving you a heads up about it now. If you read book 1 and think, hell yes, I want 5 more books about Arlen, Leisha, and Roger,
gonna have a bad time.
But if you go into it knowing that new characters and new plots are explored and presented in every subsequent book, you might be willing to trust the author a little bit more. Trust the story, go with the flow. Enjoy the story for what it is, instead of fighting that process with your expectations. Still, if you choose to stop reading, I get it. Because I'll be blunt, if the series was just Arlen, his rivalry with Jadia, and the demons, well, we could easily tell it in a trilogy. All the extra plot lines and extra characters really do stretch this out into 5 books. And none of the extra conflicts seem anywhere near as important as the central conflict. See how you go, and see if you can find it within yourself to be patient enough to get to the end. Journey before destination and all that. The Demon Cycle deals a lot with themes of race and gender, and it handles this representation in a very grimdark manner, meaning it shows us the absolute worst of racism and sexism. Themes of race play a big part in the Daylight War, between, frankly, the white people of Thesa and the dark-skinned people of Krasia. Each side has racial slurs for each other. The few characters who want peace have to overcome language barriers and cultural barriers to try to find common ground, and everyone's too hate-filled to even try.
Can't you see you're all the same?
The sexism here is very confronting, but also very nuanced. Women in Thesa are expected to marry young and have children in order to repopulate the earth. It's a little Handmaid's Tale-ish. Yet despite this constant pressure to reproduce, women are also slut-shamed for pursuing men. It's very hypocritical of this society. Of particular note is Leisha, who is focused on her studies, you know, her career. She gets shamed by people for not doing her part and getting married. Yet, at one point it's suspected that she had sex with a boy. She starts getting shamed for sleeping around outside of wedlock. It's that damned if you do, damned if you don't mentality that often goes hand in hand with chauvinistic societies. Sometimes critics will debate the merits of this form of representation that focus more on the negative struggles for equality rather than the positive stories of empowerment. It's a subject of some debate. Personally, I think it's good to remember what we're up against and why representation is so important. There's also constant LGBT rep. There are several gay and bisexual characters who face, in the same way, oppression from society. Also, avoiding spoilers here, but there is one child who is born as intersex, meaning a person who is born with sexual anatomy that doesn't fit the boxes of male and female. This is a form of natural transgenderism and worthy of recognition. There is a lot of polygamy, which again has historical precedence, though I want to clarify something very niche here. So polygamy is when one person has multiple spouses. That's what we have in the demon cycle. Some of you might think that this is representation for non-traditional lifestyles, but that's not entirely accurate. There is such a thing as ethical non-monogamy, where people knowingly consent to having multiple romantic and sexual relationships. But most would agree polygamy does not check the boxes of being ethical.
Are you two friends?
Yes.
If one person has multiple spouses, then that one person tends to hold all the power in the relationship. There's always inequality in relationships like that, leading to roles of abuse and servitude. If the guy is allowed to have multiple partners, but then the spouses in turn are not allowed, then it's not really a relationship of equals. I just feel the need to point that out. Alright, now for the big one. Look, here's a list, cause ain't nobody got time for that. Is the ending worth it? Well, this is a tricky one. It's worth it for some people, but not for others. Alright, that's too non-specific. Look, the ending is good. It's satisfying and concludes all the big mysteries and the character arcs that it set up all the way back from book 1. But the question is not, is the ending good? The question is it worth it? Because I'm not sure if the ending is worth reading all 5 books, especially when they keep deviating away from the main story. So this is one I've got to leave up to you, unfortunately. I can't answer it for you. If you're halfway through and you've just run out of patience and you're not having a good time, it is okay to stop. The ending is good, but you don't have to push through if you don't want to. How's that? How much should you try? Well, the first book is quite universally loved. The Painted Man, or the Warded Man, as it's called in the US, is the shortest book of the 5 and widely regarded as the strongest. In fact, it's almost too strong a novel because the starting plots and characters tend to overshadow all the new plots and characters that come after. Still, if you love the first book and can handle all the grimdark, you will know if this series is worth reading further. So good luck and happy reading. Thanks for watching. So some quick updates. My own trilogy of books is coming to Kickstarter on the 30th of September next month. So advanced reader copies of book 1 are now available on my Patreon if you want to get on early. Speaking of Kickstarter, my talented wife Kit has designed these new varsity fantasy jackets, which I have with me right here. There's a brown one that's bookish themed for all you readers out there. And we have a black one which is witchy themed. Oh, thank you. A black one, which is witchy themed. These are available on Kickstarter at the moment, and they will soon be added to our shop. If you get it on Kickstarter now, they are a much cheaper price. They are such high quality and they're absolutely gorgeous. There's a link in our description to the Kickstarter, which will have a more promo video for more questions there. So these are live on Kickstarter at pre-sale prices up until the 6th of September. Otherwise, please like and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on the Demon Cycle below. I will see you next time, and I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope you enjoy a good book. Bye!